Hello and welcome back to the Cars Ireland YouTube channel. Today we are reviewing the all-new Peugeot Corsa. See, I'm being very funny there because the all-new Corsa is actually based very heavily on the Peugeot 208. The company that run Peugeot recently took over Opel, and that saves on money thanks to synergies. Personally, I think it's a big improvement on the old model, which was instantly forgettable. Go on, try and think of it. Bet you can't. Now, while both companies have tried to give the cars their own special character, you really can see the Peugeot 208 from back here, in my eyes anyway. Now, the Corsa's boot measures in at 309 litres, which is about average for the class. The rear seats will fold almost flat in a 60-40 split to reveal 1,015 litres of space. One strange omission from the boot is you don't get any of those handy little knickknacks like hooks or a 12-volt socket or nets or anything of that interesting nature. I shall now demonstrate space in the back by gracefully entering this very narrow door. Jesus. Oh my God. Very comfortable. As you can see, that's set to my seating position and I am crammed in here. As you can see, space is a bit of a mixed bag. Two grown-ups up front will be perfectly comfortable. There's lots of adjustment in the seat and you can actually adjust your steering wheel for rack and reach and all that lovely stuff. One gripe I do have up here is because I'm actually sitting quite far back, my head and eyes are in line with this pillar. So when you're coming out of a roundabout, you turn straight at the pillar. It's fine, you adjust to it, but it can be irritating if you're a bit taller. Spec is perfectly acceptable from entry level upwards. All models get the touchscreen, cruise control, Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, USB connections, that adjustable steering wheel I was showing you earlier, and safety stuff like lane departure warning and emergency braking. We are in a mid-level sporty spec, so you get the red accents around the dashboard, red stitching on the seats, lifts the interior quite a bit. I would have liked a bit of red stitching on the door, but you know, beggars can't be choosers and all that. Another thing I'm a big fan of is there's like 6 buttons down here in the front for things that you just, if you want to turn them off, you can just press the button and they're on or off. You don't have to search through a menu looking for it, not knowing where to go. They're just 6 buttons down the bottom, so you have your automatic stop start, your sport button, your lane departure warning, and your parking warning. What are they called? And your parking sensors. Now, I'm not going to go knocking and scratching and beating at everything in here because ultimately you touch about 3 or 4 things in your car every day. The steering wheel feels lovely with the padded leather, nice chunky gear stick, and the door handle feels fine, but it's actually placed in a weird position. I keep going up here to open the door and it's down there. You'd get used to it after a week or two, but just something that your passengers will get annoyed with. If I'm honest, I have a massive affinity for these type of cars. Cars like the Corsa, the Polo, the Punto, the Fiesta, the Clio, the list is endless. These are the real cars that have an effect on people. Your first car, that first rush of independence. It takes over, it's intoxicating, gets into you. You remember your first car. You ask anyone, what's your first car? They know straight away. What's your second car? Haven't a clue. Honestly, I felt like I was 18 again this week. You see, back in the day, my friend had one of these. Obviously not one of these. A 1999 3-door, I think it was. We would load up into the back, stinking in Links, Africa, driving around thinking we were the shit. But the girls didn't like us at all for some reason, and I can't understand it to this day. Anyway, about 6 weeks into ownership of his lovely Corsa, he wrote it off heading to work. Crashed it into a tree. About a week later, he bought another Corsa, so it obviously had a good enough effect on him. He was fine, by the way, don't worry. The range kicks off with a 75 brake horsepower 1.2 litre petrol. A notch up from that is the 1.2 litre with a turbocharger, which is good for 100 horsepower. Fuel consumption is about the same at 5.4 litres per 100 kilometres. There is also a 1.5 litre diesel with 102 horsepower. You know the score here, it'll be noisier, more economical and will be more suitable if you do a lot of motorway driving. The Corsa will also be available in a pure electric car, which has 136 brake horsepower and will do 330 kilometers on a full charge. The car we are testing today is the 1.2 litre turbo with 100 horsepower, and it is the star of the show. 0 to 100 kilometers an hour is dealt with in 9.9 seconds. Very important to get under that 10. Like, it's no hot hatch, it's not even a warm hatch. But you know what? She's toasty, boys. She's toasty. This is the SRI model, so you know when you're getting 3 aggressive letters like that in a row, you're getting the sportier version. It even has a little sport button down here to remind you of the fact. Opel says it gives a sharper throttle response and lighter steering feel. Now, you really won't notice the lighter steering, and it's actually an odd thing because most sport buttons weight up the steering and add weight to it to make it feel more sporty. The steering is very light on the Corsa. You will, though, notice the throttle response. It does kick it up and give it a bit more eagerness. It feels like a little terrier getting off the line, just a bit happier to move. The Corsa is light and manoeuvrable and actually kind of fun to tread down a country road. The steering is a bit too light to really get in a flow with the car and feel what's going on, because you have no idea because it is so light. Once you do think you're getting into that flow, you kind of lose feel at the front and you find yourself sawing at the steering just to get back in line and really settle back into the sportier driving. In truth, this car is not going to be barreling down many back roads. It'll be driven around town, and that lighter steering and easy manoeuvrability makes town driving a lot easier. Prices start at roughly €18,000, and it's undoubtedly a tempting choice in this segment. It's quite good looking, well spec'd from entry level, and actually very fun to drive. Now, this car's biggest problem is, ironically, its cousin, the 208, because ultimately it's the same underneath, it looks better inside, it looks better outside, and they're priced about the same. So for those better looks, you probably will just go for the 208. There is also the exciting prospect of its sibling, the Corsa E, which will be an electric version, and hopefully we'll get to test that later in the year. Please do like and subscribe and press the notification button and all that fun.